Have you ever wondered about the unseen crisis unfolding behind the walls of American prisons? Today, we delve into a somber topic that is often overlooked: the issue of suicide within our nation's prison system. The rates are alarming, with a suicide rate in American prisons that is significantly higher than that of the general population. To grasp the gravity of this situation, consider this. In a country where over 2 million individuals are incarcerated, the suicide rate is nearly 5 times higher than the national average. Among those most at risk are those in solitary confinement, where the lack of human contact can lead to severe mental health challenges. Furthermore, the problem is exacerbated in states with high prison populations. Arizona, for example, has the highest incarceration rate in the world, and with it, a disproportionately high number of suicides. This paints a grim picture of a system in crisis, a system where the most vulnerable are often forgotten. The question we must ask ourselves is, why is this happening and what can we do about it? To understand this crisis, we need to take a deeper look at the conditions within these prisons. Overcrowding is a critical issue, where inmates are often packed like sardines into cells designed for far fewer people. This lack of personal space and privacy can escalate tensions and increase the risk of violence, adding to the psychological stress that inmates face daily. Yet, overcrowding is just one piece of the puzzle. The lack of adequate mental health support is another significant factor. In many prisons, mental health services are woefully inadequate or even non-existent. Inmates with pre-existing mental health conditions often find themselves without the help they need to manage their illnesses. Take, for instance, the heart-wrenching case of Tyqueen Lee. After spending 600 days in solitary confinement in a Virginia jail, Tyqueen's mental state had deteriorated so severely that he was found covered in filth and barking like a dog. His story is a stark reminder of the inhumane conditions many prisoners face, and the devastating impact this can have on their mental health. On top of these issues, the prevalent use of solitary confinement is a major concern. This practice, designed as a form of punishment, often exacerbates mental health issues and can push inmates to the brink of despair. The damaging effects of such isolation were tragically underscored by the case of Khalif Browder, who tragically ended his own life after spending time in solitary confinement. Lastly, let's consider the case of Arizona, a state that has one of the highest incarceration rates in the world. The sheer scale of the problem here serves as a stark illustration of the urgent need for reform across the entire American prison system. These conditions are a breeding ground for despair, making suicide an all too common occurrence. This isn't just a problem, it's a crisis. But where there's crisis, there's also opportunity for change. We've delved into the grim reality of suicide within America's prisons. Now, let's shift our focus on the path to change. It's clear that the current system is failing its inmates, but there are initiatives on the horizon that aim to address this issue head-on. One significant area of change is mental health support in prisons. A growing number of institutions are recognizing the importance of mental health services for their inmates, including counseling and therapy, as well as medication management. However, these services need to be more than just available. They must be accessible, and inmates need to feel safe and supported in reaching out for help. Overcrowding is another aspect that desperately needs addressing. With Arizona having more prisoners than anywhere else in the world, it's no wonder that the pressure cooker environment leads to mental health crises. Reducing the number of inmates can alleviate this tension, and there are several ways to achieve this, through prison reform, sentencing reform, and a renewed focus on rehabilitation over punishment. The use of solitary confinement is a practice that's coming under increasing scrutiny. The story of Tyqueen Lee, who suffered severe mental deterioration after 600 days in solitary, highlights the urgent need for change. The HALT Act, which aims to limit the use of solitary confinement, is a step in the right direction. But these initiatives aren't enough on their own. We need government intervention and public support to bring about these changes. We need to challenge the attitude that prisons are merely places of punishment, and instead, view them as opportunities for rehabilitation and recovery. Our government needs to invest in mental health services, prison reform, and education about mental health and suicide prevention. Public support is crucial in driving these changes. We, as a society, need to recognize the humanity of those in prison and understand that they too deserve care, compassion, and a chance at redemption. Change is not only possible, it's necessary. It's time to bring this unseen crisis into the light. But change doesn't happen in a vacuum. It requires collective action and individual responsibility. Each one of us can be a catalyst for this change. You can lend your voice to advocacy groups that are tirelessly working to bring about reforms in the prison system. They need your support, your time, your resources. Consider writing to your local representatives to push for legislation changes. These laws can pave the way for more humane conditions within prison walls and ultimately save lives. You can also help by raising awareness in your own community. Talk about the harsh realities of prison life, about the mental health crisis that's silently taking lives behind bars. Break the stigma, ignite the conversation. Donations, too, are a powerful way to contribute. Your contributions can provide much-needed resources for mental health support for those behind bars. Volunteer your time. Many organizations provide support services to inmates and their families and could use an extra pair of hands. Remember, every effort counts. No action is too small when it comes to saving a life. Together we can make a difference. Together we can turn the tide on this unseen crisis and bring hope to those who need it most.